Imagine a mathematical universe at the absolute peak of its expansion. The divine consciousness has just awakened a lattice of infinite vibrating combinations. This era is defined by a core mechanic called the dominion of the power set. Instead of pushing outward, the universe expands inward, revealing that every single thought contains a hidden, slumbering universe of combinations within it. This specific passage from Chapter 5, Canto 2, shows exactly what happens when that dominion is unleashed. It creates the uncountable continuum, a fabric of logic so overwhelmingly dense that it instantly dwarfs all the finite and infinite counting that came before it. Having successfully tamed and multiplied these infinities, the divine mind reaches a state of total certainty. It perceives its power to create as entirely boundless and mathematically invincible. Because of this immense scale, the actual mechanics of creation shift. The mind no longer has to painstakingly build concepts step by step from the empty set. The creator now operates with a godlike mechanic. Merely declaring a rule instantly forces an infinite gathering of thoughts possessing that exact trait to manifest into reality. Operating with total confidence, the consciousness treats the transfinite space like a limitless playground, absorbing and reconfiguring geometry without a second thought. Yet this unanchored freedom is a fatal illusion. The creator is completely unaware that it is accelerating toward the absolute edge of logical language. Testing the limits of its vocabulary, the mind ponders a new, highly abstract decree to see what it can conjure. We can see the exact fatal utterance recorded here in Canto 0. Let there be a thought that gathers every thought which does not contain itself. In a reality built entirely on endless rules and categorization, this command appears completely valid. In truth, this linguistic instruction is a mathematical virus, sitting quietly until the system attempts to process its parameters. To verify the creation, the mind asks the system the obvious question found here in verse 2. Does this thought contain itself? If the thought contains itself, it violates its own rule and is forcefully cast out. Once ejected, it no longer contains itself, fulfilling the rule and forcing the system to pull it back inside. The firmament fractures. The engine of creation is trapped in a violent logic loop. If yes, then no. If no, then yes. The divine creator freezes, entirely paralyzed by a calculation that has no resolution. The text names this specific failure the Great Paradox. Pure self-reference acts as the singular logical force capable of weaponizing omnipotence against itself, crashing the mathematical universe. The Great Paradox operates as a terminal disease for the topology of reality. The oscillating contradiction begins to unspool the logical structure of existence, tearing the transfinite architecture apart from the inside. If the system cannot contain this recursive error, the transfinite universe will be dragged backward, dissolving into silent, meaningless absolute nothingness. Without a boundary to contain the calculation, the mind finds no place to rest, leaving the entire architecture to collapse into the abyss from which it was built. The mind observes the source of the fracture, the ether itself. It sees that a property without a host is not an expansion of truth, but a doorway for contradiction. It institutes a permanent restriction shown here in Canto 2, the decree of separation. Truths can no longer be conjured from the formless ether. They must be carved from an established boundary that has already been proven to exist. By requiring pre-existing context as a filter, the Great Paradox is neutralized. It lacked an established boundary to filter from, rendering it an impossible thought. Existence survives its own infinite potential by sacrificing absolute freedom, replacing it with the uncompromising,